Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We from group 7, we will explain about power relation. We start from the definition of power relation is, in general usage, the term power is a very broad concept that encompasses many different things including ability, agency, dominance, and potential. Power must be understood in the first instance as the multiplicity of four relations immanent in the sphere in which they operate and which constitute their own organization, as the process which, through casual struggles and confrontation, transforms, strengthens, or reserves them, as the support which these four relations find in one another, thus forming a chain or a system, or on the contrary, the distinction and contradiction which isolate them from one another, and lastly, as the strategy in which they take effect, whose general design or institutional crystallization is embodied in the state apparatus, in the formulation of the law in the various social hegemony. Power must be understood as a form of immanent power relation in the speech in which it operates. Power must be understood as something that perpetuates the power relation, which form a chain or system of this relation, or basically what isolates them from other from a power relation. Therefore, power is a strategy in which the power relation is the effect. Assalamualaikum.
Power relations are relationships in which one person has social formative power over another and is able to get the other person to do what they wish, whether by compelling obedience or in some less compulsive and even a more subtle way. According to Foucault, power is everywhere, not because it includes everything, but because power comes from anywhere and is a form of ideas and identity that preserves the world in an ever renewing form. In our opinion, the power context conveyed by Foucault is more supportive of cultural studies that come from the post-positivist class, which puts forward its critical attitude towards ideas. We agree that the world is always changing, and culture also changes according to the changing times. But in our opinion, there is one thing that has not changed, namely the feeling of always wanting to come up with new ideas and change the world according to what the individual or group dreams of.
Next is Foucault theory, but before that, we'll talk about Michel Foucault. So, Michel Foucault was born on October 15, 1926 in Paris, France, under the name Paul Michel Foucault, and he died on June 25th, 1984 in Paris. He is one of the postmodernist thinkers that contributes to distinctive ideas and thoughts that have considerable influence on the development of human knowledge. His analysis is critical and sharp on many matters, such as history, episteme, discourse, power, and knowledge that are capable of giving new colors to postmodernism thinking. Foucault embraced the flow of Western philosophy, pasca-culturalism, and discussion analysis. Foucault's philosophical thinking was influenced by such many thinkers like philosophers, sociolinguists, and literally as Friedrich Nietzsche, Karl Marx, and many others.
The next is Foucault theory. In contrast to others who have described the concepts of power, Foucault presents a new perspective of power. According to Foucault, gratitude is something that is only controlled by the state, something that can be measured. Power for him is everywhere because power is a dimension of relations. That means where there is a relation, there is a power. He realized the peculiarity of Foucault. He doesn't describe what power is, but how it functions in certain fields. What Foucault is actually doing is showing that we are a part of that power. From this awareness will be born the ability to use power properly, meaning for the benefit of others. Power in others is only born from awareness of one's own place in the constellation of power. The problem in life is the prohibition that people don't, people don't realize their role in the map of power. When people are aware of this, then people will accept and appreciate the plurality of roles that exist in power relations. From this unconsciousness, various oppressive and uniform actions and systems will be born.
Types of power relation. There are three types of power relation. The first is sovereign power. As the name suggests, sovereign power refers to the mode of power most obvious in monarchy, where the king or queen possesses ultimate authority over other people's lives. Foucault used the term sovereign to refer to this noble mode of power. The sovereign mode of power operates in democracies when authorities, people or laws try to control other people. For example, the mode of sovereign power describes the situation in which headmasters use their authority to expel or promote students, when bullies persecute their victims, and when some people have the right to vote while others are denied. The sovereign mode of power is easy to recognize and understand because it most closely resembles force of domination and control with which we are familiar.
Other types of power is a biopower. According to Foucault, biopower is a technology of power which organizes human subjects as a population. It constitutes the subject gradually, progressively, and maturely. The technique of biopower functions to incite, reinforce, control, monitor, optimize, and organize. It is a power that is taking charge of life. Thus, power applies itself to everyday life and the process in which we are categorized and that are attached to our own identities. Foucault describes biopower as exciting side by side with the sovereign power. In this sense, he made a distinction between the repressive legal sovereign power on the one hand and the productive normalizing power on the other. Biopower is interested in a body of population, a nation, members of an organization, and etc., and its health and effectiveness as a totality. It is interested in steering the general behavior, stimulating the tendencies, and governing of how life is reproduced and how productive society is. It is power that is trying to improve the quality of life of its member, their cooperative ability as well as other qualities of the population. The biopolitical form of power is about regulation of social life, social engineering, management, or governmentality in which health, longevity, energy or vitality, stability and growth and social life in focus. Rabinow and Rose 2006 claims that biopurpose includes three elements. First, through discourse about the vital character of human beings, example health science, specific strategies for intervention upon the health and life of a population. And the third is condition of subjectification that facilitate individual work on themselves according to the third discourse on health and life. Biopower use statistic, predictability, calculation, and surveillance of pattern within the social body in order to assess how to act and manage the different changes in an optimal way. The goal is to increase evolutionary process and to build on biology and medicine in order to maximize the output and the abilities of the population. This became a form of power of the modern state during the 18th and 19th century, but was later optimized in the welfare state. The resistance against biopower. Foucault explained that counterconduct is a matter of conducts done differently by other leaders with other objective or produce method. And the example of such counterconduct which Foucault analyses are Protestantism and peasant revolts at the time of Reformation. The beginning of full-blown resistant culture that undermines biopower may be all the kind of biopolitical practices in which people questioning certain aspect of control over their lives and the conduct of their conduct. And the resistance against biopower is the resistance that tries to avoid the managing of population policies and institutions by acting differently in subculture and by cultivating a different set of values, practice, and institution. Also, this resistance will take on the challenge and develop non-productive form of life and biological existence. It means forms of life that are not useful for power regime. Furthermore, it will try to undermine social engineering of the population.
Disciplinary power is the kind of power we exercise over ourselves based on our knowledge of how to fit into a society. Foucault's analysis tells us that disciplinary power is the execute rule mechanism that are different from the mechanism of sovereign power. For example, sovereign power is the exercise through physically punishment and reward. Discipline power, on the other hand, is the exercise through surveillance and knowledge. One surveillance mechanism is the gaze. The gaze is symbolized by the panopticon, a prison design that allows a supervisor to watch inmates. The concept of the gaze is important because it shows that it is not necessary to watch people constantly because people will regulate themselves even when they think they are being watched. Kids give people the feeling that they are being watched, and that feeling is a mechanism of our self-discipline. Another mechanism of disciplinary power is the production of particular kind of knowledge, especially knowledge of human science. The word discipline also refers to an academic subject such as discipline of sociology or a discipline of political science. The meaning of discipline highlights the role that knowledge plays in the government practice in modern democracies. In the disciplinary of power, knowledge of the psychology and social science helps us to understand who we are. Academic disciplines provides the basis of which we know that what we is good, what is normal, and how we ought to behave. Particular kind of knowledge are produced and made available to us, and that knowledge allows us to govern ourselves in particular ways. Foucault called the case of and human science mechanism or technologies of disciplinary power.
Okay, the next is example of the power relation. One is the model of sovereign power. 1. A situation in which principal uses his or her authority to exclude or promote students. 2. When the bully assaults the victim. 3. When some people have the right to vote and agree on the option, which others are rejected. 4. A king who has the right to declare war or make a peace with another kingdom. Okay, the next example of biopower. Biopower is a power of life including births, deaths, health, sickness, and demographic. In case like the battle in United States over women's reproductive rights, abortion, birth control, etc., is an example of biopolitics. And the force extended by biopolitics over women's bodies is biopower. Okay, the next example of disciplinary power. First is Foucault called the concept of the case. 1. A prisoner who feels he is being cased by guard in the prison. 2. A religious community who has no sin because he feels he is being cased by his God. B. Discipline in the production of particular kinds of knowledge. 1. In health science knowledge, which make us disciplined to eat nutritious food and have a healthy lifestyle and join a health club. B. Or 2. In sociology knowledge, listen politely when people are speaking to us.